Your alternative talk radio contact. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complacency, people went to and fro the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Welcome to another episode of Into the Fray, leering at you from the woodline. Visit the mothership at intothefrayradio.com. There you can find all the episodes, the blog posts, ITF gear, and sign up for the free guest newsletter. The weekly show is, of course, always free and available in all podcatchers, but if you'd like to support the show, and why wouldn't you, go to the website and click Become an Insider, which in turn gets you extra content each and every month. And by the way, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review in your listening platform of choice, Cosmic Karma shall be yours. Be part of the discussion by joining the interactive ITF Facebook group. Follow on Twitter at ITF_radio and Instagram. If you have an experience that you'd like to share, email Shannon at intothefrayradio.com. Thanks so much for listening. Now, if you would be so kind, buckle up your safety belts. Put that tray table in the upright position. Liftoff is upon us.
Well, the Boulders, that was before the woman told us about her daughter's experience. That was before Mom's diagnosis that she had Gehrig's. At that point, she was just, her words were getting slurred. She was having a hard time talking, and the tripping had begun. So that's, what it was money was tight at that point. And Dad and I were both working, but money was still, tight, and we had a fight. And it was late at night, and he went to his room, and I went to my room, and I was still pretty mad, teenager, and I just, my grandmother lives north of town, 4 miles, and I just thought, well, I'll just walk up there, because my truck was parked up there, and I'm going to get my truck. And so I just left, probably close to midnight. I just left. Didn't tell anybody that I was going. And I didn't stay next to the highway, Highway 93. I stayed off in the fields. And I had just passed the old rock quarry when I heard, it's not a scream, but more like a very loud moan, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. Moan, howl, something like that. And I stopped, I looked behind, up the hill. I didn't know what it was, but I thought, well, it must be a coyote or whatever. And I was still hot under the collar, and I was just like, well, if that coyote comes near me, I'll just bash its head in or something, And
Right.
I just kept on walking. Yeah. Stupid kid. But I kept on walking, and then there was a reply, similar call. Then another one, and then another one. It's probably about, I guess, 4 or 5 of them total. And I could hear them starting to converge together, because they were calling out to each other, location, They knew where each other was.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming together, and finally they come, I could hear them. They were now in a group. And then after they were in a group, they come straight towards me from behind. And I can hear them, and they're getting closer and closer. And then about, 30 or 50 feet, they go silent. I turn around a couple of times to see them, but it was, like I say, it was at night. This was past midnight, but there was no clouds in the sky. And it was just, starlight. And once your eyes get used to it, you can kind of see okay. I'm not tripping over rocks or anything, branches. And you keep on walking, and then what it is they kind of form a half circle around me, staying about 20 feet or so away. And I can hear clicking, almost like you would maybe hear, the closest I can think of is like the little Bushmen, like the gods must be crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Series of clicks. I was confused. It's not, because at first I thought it's a coyote, whatever. But, I'm no expert in coyotes, but I don't think they make clicking. And then what it was is one would make clicks. Then there'd be a pause of a second or so. And then one either to the left or right of it would then make a series of clicks, but they weren't the same. It wasn't like a repeat. It would be, it's kind of like when you hear people, you're in the store, and there's some people from another nationality, Vietnamese or something, and they're having this conversation, and you can tell it's language, you just don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't know what they're saying. And that's kind of like what it was. It's that same feeling. I was like, it sounds like they're talking to each other, but I have no idea what they're saying. And I kept stopping and looking, and all it was sagebrush and rocks, but they stayed out of my vision. I couldn't see them. They were hiding, I guess, in the sagebrush or something. And I just kept on walking, and the clicking continued. And I started feeling drowsy. And it was a real boulder, a lot of boulders, and it was just one big, just nothing but rock. And because it was solid rock, nothing was growing on it. No sagebrush, no grass, nothing. And I kind of went out in the middle, and I think it was because it was safer there, because I felt that because there was nothing, nothing could sneak up around me, because I had all this vision, it was wide open space. I sat down, because I was feeling tired. I'm just going to rest. 10 minutes, I'm just going to rest here. But, it just got more and more tired. And I got to the point where I just kind of flopped over on it was my left side. And I just kind of laid down, and I was out. I don't know if it was a minute or 2 minutes, but something had touched the back of my head. And when it did, it's kind of like, if somebody falls asleep on the couch and just barely touch the arm, and they suddenly shoot up, They kind of scare you in the process. But that's what happened. Something changed. I just shot up. And when I did, I heard what sounded like bare feet on the rock running away. And I spun around to look at it, but by the time I had spun around, all I saw was the sagebrush shaking where it dove into it, I guess. And, but, I'm thinking, oh crap, the coyote, I fell asleep, and I got really scared. And, I thought, well, that's it. I'm not sitting down again. So I got back up on my feet, and I was determined. There was no way I was stopping again. No matter what, I was going to walk the rest of the way. I was going to get to my truck, and only when I got to my truck, once I was inside, door closed, and the locked and everything, then I'd take a nap, and then I'd drive home. That was the plan, anyhow. But, so I start walking, and the clicking resumes. And as I'm walking, I'm getting drowsy again, getting sleepy. And like I said, this time before I just kind of sat down or whatever. This time I was determined. I started hitting myself in the chest, trying to, wake up, really hard, hit myself. Then I'd shake my head and scream and stuff like that. And, but it wasn't working. I was just, it's like somebody had drugged me. I mean, I just, I'm walking along and I can't hold my head up, and I'm having a hard time walking in a straight line. I'm stumbling like I'm drunk or something. And at this point, I wasn't sure if I was even going in the right direction, because all that was on my mind was to keep going forward, not to stop, just keep going forward. Even though, I'm walking, I could have walked right off into the river or into the middle of a highway. I wouldn't even know it, but I don't know if I tripped over a rock or if I just lost my balance. But I went down onto my hands and knees, and I started crawling on my hands and knees through the sagebrush, still, trying to keep moving. And I didn't go very far, though, a few feet, and I could feel my arms. They were so tired. So, I just felt like I was just about to go face down into the dirt. And I was scared. And so I managed to force myself back up onto my knees. And I started looking around for some sort of safety. I was looking for maybe a barn or somebody's house or something. I was looking for a street light. I didn't see anything. And I looked up the hill, and I could see this boulder, great big boulder. And I thought, well, maybe if I climb on top of that, I'll be safe. And so, with what energy I had, I forced myself back onto my feet, and I stumbled up the hill toward this boulder. And at this point, I was kind of out of it, so I don't really know if they were still clicking. But I get up to the boulder, and one side it was kind of sloped, and I know that even now that it was at such a grade that I could easily just walk up it. Like right now, I could just walk right up it. But at that time, I was so unstable. I could just fall right over. So I got back down on my hands and knees, and I crawled up this boulder to the highest point. And when I got to the top, I realized that whatever was falling behind me, if I could crawl up this rock, it could get to me easy. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing left. I had no more energy. I was up there, and I just, as carefully as I could, laid myself down on the rock, not to smash my face, because I was face down. And then my eyes closed, and then that was it. I was out. And then, I don't know, again, I don't know how much time passed by, but I woke up again. But this time, I was flat on my back, and my arms were at my side, and I'm looking. I'm staring up into the night sky, and I can see all the little stars twinkling and stuff like that. And I hear kind of a grunt, I guess you could call it, up above where my head is. And then I heard something kind of reply back down toward where my feet were. And then I could hear movement off to my left. And I remember, even though I was concerned and I was scared, I couldn't sit up. I couldn't do anything to try and run away or, fight or anything. I just laid there. And I remember the last thought I had before my eyes closed was, I'm surrounded. That was the last thought. And then my eyes closed. And when they opened again, the sun was almost coming up over the mountains. When I woke up, I shot straight up. And I was looking all over the place. I was trying to see where whatever it was following me. I was trying to see if it was still around. I didn't see anything. And then I started checking my body. You know, I was like looking for blood and stuff, and I started counting my fingers. And felt my face because I was trying to, my ear still hurts, or, you know, stuff like that. And after I'd gone through that, checking myself, I sat there on the rock, and I was kind of like, what the heck happened? And, you know, it was kind of cold, and then the sun came out, and I just sat there, and I warmed up a little bit, and then I just kept, after I was sat there for 10 minutes, I just started walking again, and I got to my grandmother's. I was pretty well rested, and got in the truck, started, and drove back to Salmon, and I didn't tell anybody about it because it was just too weird. So that's the story about the rocks, or the clicks in the rocks.
It's one thing to read it, and I know you didn't cover every detail in your email, but it's another thing to hear it. Just trying to process all that. That's absolutely terrifying.
It's like I said, that happened. That was between the house and then that woman telling us about the little man outside the window.
So, and obviously, you know, people are going to pick up very quickly on missing 411 stuff and Boulder Fields, and they've even heard Clint Granberry. I don't know if you caught that episode where he told the story about Lake Tahoe, where he felt tired and he saw light in the lake. It's a little different than yours. There's different elements, but
I think I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Saw light in the lake, and he wanted to go take a walk, and he started to get really tired and thought, the base of this tree looks like a really damn good place for a nap. And he fought it.
Yeah.
And he fought it, yeah.
The other thing was the face down.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing that bothered me was, I've heard Pilates, and I've heard other people, when talking about it, they're always talking about, you know, the dogs, and the no scent and no body or whatever. And then they say, and they're always found face down.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to sound like maybe it won't be a stupid question, but do you remember what you were wearing? Were you wearing a bright color? I mean, if we're going to bring the 411 up, right?
No, I was not wearing bright colors. I like my jeans. It's either, you know, the dark, that dark blue or black. So that would have been my jeans. And probably just, I can't remember what kind of t-shirt I was wearing, but I don't wear bright colors very often. So.
I mean, if you're really thinking about, you know, as an outsider for me, to put myself in that position, you're being stalked and you know it. I mean, there's some really weird shit, pardon my French, but there's some really weird stuff going on. And through the midst of this, all you're thinking is I need a nap. I'm so freaking tired. But see, our bodies aren't supposed to work like that, because if we think we're in mortal danger, adrenaline kicks in and we're just ready to rip faces off and protect ourselves. But you're doing the opposite.
I think part of the reason why was I had a fight with Dad, and I'm still angry. You know, and I'm, you know, how old was I? 18? I can't remember. Somewhere around. Yeah, I think it was 18. So, you know, I'm still pretty young and stupid. And I think what it was is I was angry. Like I said, when I heard that first call and I turned around, I didn't know what it was. And I thought, well, it must be a coyote. And I remember thinking, well, if that thing comes down here, I'm just going to bash its head in. Because I was still angry, you know, and I was just, you know, some angry young man, you know, and, you know how they are, you know, they're impervious, you know, hot-headed, they think they can do anything. And I think what it was because of that anger and stuff, you know, even when they started coming towards me, I just kind of, what the heck's going on now? And even when I fell asleep that one time, the first time, you know, I still thought it was a coyote. And the thing it was for me, it's kind of a lesson in when you look into these strange topics, because a lot of times people will kind of have an assumption of, that, oh, it must have been this or must have been that. And without really, ever really identifying it or being positive. It's kind of like this with, I just automatically thought, oh, it's just a coyote.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I never saw a coyote. I didn't see a tail. I didn't see some fur or something as it went behind a rock or something. Never saw anything. All I heard were the clicks. And like I said, I don't think coyotes make clicking, and they don't kind of talk back and forth to each other making clicking either. And, but for me, it kind of taught me, now that I look back at a lot of this stuff, not to immediately say, oh, well, this is what it is. You have maybe some idea. You're like, well, it could be this, it could be that. But, to leave it open to be wrong.
All right, let's take a quick break. I would like to take a moment to tell you about Hims. It's a new wellness brand for men. Now, here is a fact. By the age of 35, 66% of men will lose their hair. However, just because you've noticed this loss doesn't mean it's too late. Because you see, it's so much simpler to keep the hair you have than replacing what's lost. So let's do something about your receding hairline, growing bald spot, or overall thinning hair. Would you like to turn to weird solutions or medicine and science? ForHims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skin care, and intimacy wellness for men. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. Well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. No waiting room, no awkward doctor visits. Save hours by going to forhims.com. Answer a few quick questions, and a doctor will review and prescribe you. Products are shipped directly to your door. So order now. My listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last. See website for full details. Now, this would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/fray. That's FORHIMS.com/fray. forhims.com/fray.
If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never find the truth. That's really all I really care about. I'm not interested in, writing a book or, proving it to the world. It's really for myself to understand, because, we're kind of taught that this is how the world is, up is up and down is down, and 2 + 2 is 4. But then you have this other stuff that happens, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, there's more going on here.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the answers, and for the most part, it's not given to you. It's not like you just come on Discovery Channel, oh, there's the answer right there. You got to dig. And it's interesting because there's, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of people who, they think they've got it. They think they're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of that as a lesson for myself, not just to think, okay, I know what it is, and everybody else is wrong.
Right.
What it is I have to look at it and say, well, this is what I've experienced. This is kind of where I'm going, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. It could be that it's something else, and I'm not seeing it right, or I'm missing the pieces, that would change my opinion.
Right. No, and I think that's a wonderful approach, and I wish that more people would take that. So if we take that humble approach, which I love, and I try to do the same thing, what do you think those things were that night?
Well, I don't think it was a Bigfoot or anything like that. Although I've heard people say that they're around. One of the guys on the project, he was going on about Chalice and about all the different sightings. Chalice isn't too far away from there. but I haven't heard a lot of reports talking about clicking. It's possible I haven't, but I have seen, especially in like some of the older literature, Native Americans will talk about these like sounds like birds and clicking noises. What was it? Robert Kirk. I think he wrote a book about the FRAY. You probably know the book I'm talking about. He was 18th century? He was a reverend. And anyhow, he was talking about how they communicate through chirps and whistles and clicks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyhow, again, I don't know because I didn't actually see what was doing it, but I kind of lean towards that it was the little people, or as I found out what my great grandmother called them was the sheep eaters. So that's kind of where I look and lean to. So.
Yeah, because when you're looking at a classic Sasquatch report, when people want to lean towards that, like with the stalking aspect, and at first you kind of heard weird moans or what you thought initially was just, oh, it's coyotes. But as far as we know, Sasquatch cannot make you feel tired and make you want to lay down and take a nap. And that whole aspect of it is a whole nother thing that we've talked before on Into the Fray, and that is, in fact, it was Pam. I've had Pam on a number of times, and the glamour that the Fae put on you, and they kind of, they just put you in your own little happy place, and even though you should be terrified and not want to go to sleep, that's kind of what tends to happen.
Right. It's kind of like that old story. What was it? Rip Van Winkle?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I got
No, it's
that
spot
right.
on. Yeah, it's spot on. No,
If you remember, that was a story about, I think they were called the little bowlers, little guys, and made him fall asleep, I think, as the story went, and then, took him to fairyland, I think, or something.
Yeah.
When he came back, it was like 100 years later or something. Oh.
Right. And then he's still the same age, right? But then everyone he loved and knew was dead because he's been gone for so long. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you, and I'm pretty sure you read Jacques Vallée.
Yeah.
He talks about cases. And I think that's one reason why he kind of went towards, because he got criticized heavily from the people in UFO, because they're from Zeti Reticuli or whatever, whatever. And he started drawing these comparisons about the old stories about fairies and about missing time. And he said, that's the same thing that happens with UFOs. And so he was like, wow, that's not related. But,
right. People freak out when you bring up other stuff like that. They do, but the check marks are there down the line for the list, right?
Oh, yes. I think what it is you have to identify your bias. For instance, like I said, my mom was a devout Christian. I don't go to church or anything like that, but because of her influence as a kid, I kind of have this kind of a biblical outlook on things, because I'm familiar with the Bible and everything, so I kind of have a biblical, it has an influence on me. And of course, there's been all these discussions about Nephilim and stuff like that. And even though I can see that kind of stuff, I realize it's a bias that I naturally want to go that direction. And when I very first started searching for the truth, at first I thought the only way I could find it was I had to eliminate all my biases. I had to be like a blank slate, That way I could follow the truth. That of course didn't work out, because that's not who we are. We have our influences, our childhood and everything like that. And then I got to thinking about it. I thought, actually, how it should work is you need to identify and recognize that is your kind of your strength. This is an area that you kind of know something about. Maybe somebody else has a strength in, I don't know, Native American mythology, or maybe they have a strength in some sort of science or something, primatology or something. And that's the way they lean. And what it is as long as you can identify, you're like, well, this is what I think it is, but I know that my bias, my influence kind of takes me that way. But at the same point, to be aware of it, and if you're trying to find the truth, you look to the other people and say, well, what do you think? What do you think? And they might not, they're looking at a different perspective. Only then can you kind of find the truth. I think the only way you can find it is when you have all the different perspectives and when something works. When they say, oh, it's this, like Bigfoot's a mountain-back gorilla. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, let's see if that works. And then you kind of run into things like, well, this is kind of not fitting with that hypothesis, not quite, certain things aren't adding up. And so you start slowly checking out, like you said, checking off the boxes. And then before you know it, you're narrowing it down, I think. And eventually you come to the truth. But I think what holds people back is they're reluctant because the truth it can be terrifying because it changes your whole outlook on reality, I think, because like I said, you're brought up with this is how the world operates. And then they try and stay within that and make this other, paranormal stuff kind of fit into that little box. This is how it works. But the problem is it challenges them and kind of like, you have to come out of the box to figure this out. And I think with whatever it could be, UFOs or Bigfoot, I think a lot of times, kind of like how we were talking about Jacques Vallée,
right?
He kind of challenged them to come out of the box. Well, what about this? And what about that? Why are these similarities? Have you looked at it? And of course, a lot of people in the UFO community were like, no, that's ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about. Because it was challenging them. They wanted to stay inside their box. So,
Christopher, what if it was another 19-year-old walking past the quarry that night? I mean, why you? Do you think that if it was another person that the same thing would have happened to them? Or do you think that you're one of those people that these certain things, they're attracted to you for whatever reason?
For me, I don't think, you hear a lot of people say it, they don't believe in coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I look at everything and I say, it can't all be coincidence. Because, when I started, I told you about that dream.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason at the time I didn't realize it when I had it, but it was years later, we were talking about Vallée. I was reading, because of all these experiences I'd had, and then I was in Washington, I was having more experiences, and I was like, what's going on? And I was reading his book, and I was reading, and I blurted out. I wasn't even thinking. I just said, oh, this is one of the books I've been looking for. This is one of the books I need. And I remember the hair on my arms just went up, and a chill. I felt a chill because all of a sudden that dream flashed in my head, and I was like, oh, crap. I was thinking, in that dream, there's these little guys chasing me, and I'm in a library, and I'm looking for a book or books. I don't know why, but for some reason I need it. I need the book to, I'm looking for something. And here I am, that was 5, and then here I am, what was I, almost in my 30s? And, all of a sudden I'm laying there, and all of a sudden that dream, it just came back, and I'm like, that's why I need to remember it. That's what that dream meant. It was almost like a prophetic.
Yeah.
And so I look at that stuff, I sometimes think, is it just chance? And I think, I don't know where you lean in your belief system, but I think everybody, whatever they believe in, they think, unless you're, a militant atheist, there's no reason, there's no purpose to anything.
Right.
But that there's other powers, other forces, if you will, something else kind of tweaking, if you will, our lives. Kind of subtly, maybe poking here and there and everything, and maybe causing us to go down the left way instead of turning right or something. And, you get little stories, people, I knew an old guy, he was in his 80s, he was talking about World War II, and he said he was a mechanic, and he was about to cross the street, and there was a bus parked, and so he couldn't really see what was coming down the road, but he was just going to cross the street. And just as he came past that corner of the bus, he could hear this truck coming at him, and he froze. And he said there was no time to react. He just knew, this is it, I'm about to die. That truck was going to hit him. And he said he just felt a force push him back. He felt a force hit him in the chest, and he goes flying back, and the truck goes shooting by, misses him. And he said he was laying there on the ground, and there was nobody there. And at that point, he was an atheist. It's interesting. And because of that experience, he became a religious guy and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You think about stories like that, and there's probably millions of stories like that. And I think something out there is kind of has plans, or something. I don't know. It sounds pretty crazy, but as for me, I don't think it's all just chance or bad luck. Well, sometimes I think it's bad luck because you can't see the world in the same way. So
and I think that does disappoint people, though, sometimes, right? Because they were so staunch in their beliefs on this or that, and then I think they get a little frustrated because they realize, I have to change everything about me, everything I thought or believed and argued about. I mean, some people really love to argue about their points, right? So, no, I'm right there with you on that.
Right. I guess it's a philosophical, kind of discussion, I guess, which is interesting about whatever topic, whether it's ghosts or could be a haunted street or whatever. Sometimes it's easy just to focus on the little stories and everything like that, but then you start to kind of look deeper and wonder about the meaning and the purpose, and was this just an accident or was it designed? What does that mean for the bigger picture? The meaning of life, I guess. Which a lot of people still fight over.
Well, and I think that's a good segue to say there's more to come. I have notes already ready to go for our next chat because you've got other stories, which now that I've heard these, I'm realizing how much, as you said, there's the common thread kind of running in between all these, and they do seem to tie together, and it gives me chills because we've been talking for quite a while. And now I'm actually getting to hear all of this, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is actually really so incredible. And so that will be for our next round.
I hope you didn't find it too disturbing.
No, I'm pretty weird, and I've heard a lot of stuff. I mean, not that yours is mundane at all. In fact, I've heard things tonight that I've never heard, which is... I love that. So I appreciate you trusting me enough and taking the time out to tell me these tales. So we'll continue this for part 2.
Okay.
I thank you so much for doing that. And hopefully it wasn't too painful and you want to come back on for the rest of it, because you do have a few more very interesting tales to tell. So, no, a huge thank you to you, Christopher, honestly.
You're welcome. All right, bye.
Bye.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little fire. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam. by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are, You are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, "Now get up and walk across the room." And he comes back and he says, "Where are your footprints?" They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.